Hey, it's Dr. Ernst, host of the AskDrErnst Show. And if you missed today's masterclass, I don't know what to say other than whip out your phone right now and text the word replay to 704-906-2094. Here's why. Today we destroyed diabetes. We crushed cholesterol. We knocked blood pressure out of the park back into normal by solving the root causes of metabolic syndrome. Neurological interference, leaky gut, heavy metal, and pesticide glyphosate toxicity are all linked to these conditions. And if you want a way out, this is the opportunity right now. Take up your phone, open up your messaging app, type the word replay, and make sure you send it to 704-906-2094. It's all you have to do. It's on the screen. I don't know how easy I can make this. Take the opportunity right now. 704-906-2094. The word replay, your name and email, and hit send. Once again, just in case you need it, 704-906-2094.
Beyond wine, we really care about health. The health of the planet and the health of each other. That's what inspired us to start this business. Our family of team members meets every morning for a group meditation, followed by an open gratitude session. We believe a sound mind with a focus on peace is the best instrument for change. Joint meditation is the cornerstone of our company culture, and it helps us remember what's important, spreading joy and love, just like our family growers. Our family is a collection of passionate, health-conscious individuals who love to laugh and enjoy each other's company. We eat seasonally, grow our own vegetables, cook together, and share wine. Our team is incredibly dedicated to our mission. Everything from sourcing the wines to answering service questions. Your natural wines were found and sourced around the world by our wine team. They taste every one, oversee their lab testing, and choose exactly which ones go in which box. If you order, your individual box will be packed by our incredibly hardworking fulfillment team. If you have any questions, your service requests will be handled by a wonderfully loving member experience family who only have one goal in mind, your 100% happiness. This video is put together by our talented media team, filmed and edited in-house, just like the rest of our artful media. From our unique creations to our printed lifestyle piece called A Matter of Taste. We put love into everything we do, and we hope to share it with you.
Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. You're listening to the Ask Dr. Ernst Show. My name is Dr. Aaron Ernst. Hey, it's a show where pounds are shed, disease is dead, and you can be set free from your health problems. Today we have, by far, one of the most exceptional guests ever, Dr. Dan Sullivan, the Chiropractic Advocate. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Dan.
Welcome. It's my pleasure, buddy. It's my pleasure.
I love the technology today. Isn't it cool that you and I can just open up a Zoom channel and help people learn? how to heal themselves, how to become advocates for their health. So, guys, in today's show, we are going to look at the pivotal moment that I believe is what has wrecked human healthcare. There was an event back in the day, and Dr. Dan, you are, like, in my opinion, the expert, the specialist on history of medicine, history of chiropractic, history of healthcare. Would you agree?
Yeah, Dr. Aaron, I just am I always ask the question why. I'm just curious, and so I think maybe for the audience it may be important to know, like, I grew up in a family, I'm a fifth of 8 kids. My 2 oldest brothers are medical doctors. My mom's a nurse, or was a nurse for 37 years. My sister's an occupational therapist. So we didn't grow up going to chiropractors. I did the standard traditional medical model. And I say that because to provide context where we're going to go from here is important to know, like, this isn't something I grew up in. And I think you're similar, Dr. Aaron. And so we ask enough questions to figure out how did we get in this mess? And I think that's what we're going to explore today.
Yeah, everyone in my family is either rocket scientists, engineers, anesthesiologists, OBGYNs. I came from medicine, and myself even studying medicine and doing an MD PhD program with Hershey Med and the National Cancer Institutes. I went into the belly of the beast thinking it was the way to help humanity, and I had my wake-up call just like I'm sure you've had yours. And now working in the, I don't even like to call it the alternative space. We're going to talk today about how medicine should be the alternative, and true healthcare comes from you. It comes from education. So I agree with you, and I think there's too many people listening today that are still living the medical lifestyle. I'm sure you're going to talk about that. The thought that it's from a pill they swallow or an injection they get, that health comes from the outside. And so let's get into this. I know you've got some great information for all of us on the failures of modern medicine and how it all began. So why don't we open there and just know, guys, all during our show today, Dr. Dan Sullivan is giving away the top 10 most researched reasons that healthcare is broken, and the answer is found in your body. He has all the science. It's all free for you. And I'm even giving away my guide to finding a holistic and natural practitioner in your zip code. So let's begin, and then we'll show you how you get all this free stuff.
Yeah, Dr. Aaron, I nobody just gets up one day and says, hey, I want to go and participate in a model that says when you get sick, take pills, and just alleviate the symptom and don't get to the cause of the problem. Like, nobody signed up for that, even doctors today. And that's why we're going to take even the higher road to say, how did we get here? And here's the deal. If you think about it, like my family and I were just watching this movie over the weekend. It's about the gal, Trudy, I believe Trudy Ederle, that swam the English Channel for the first time. This is like 1926. And she was in the Paris Olympics in 1924. And you're watching it like they didn't even fly. They took a boat. And I bring that up is because it's just interesting that 100 years ago, we didn't even fly overseas yet. So I say that because you just look at timelines. And I think it's hard for most people to wake up and say, like our healthcare, like, this is just the best it gets. We've got the best test and technology. We got the best doctors. We're the smartest. We can see things, understand things, study things that never before. But this is where it goes wrong, right? And this is where guys like Dr. Aaron and I say, okay, hold on a second. I also bought into that for a while, but I want to know, where did this come from? And so this is, if we go back before the turn of the century, back 1800s, the best healthcare was herbalists, naturopaths, people that were using medicine and food and using different forms of magnetic healing and just things that the body was a self-healer and self-regulator. And then the thing happened. So if you study like the men who built America, you would know a guy by the name of John D. Rockefeller. And in 1908, he connected with a guy named Abraham Flexner, and he hired this guy out of Kentucky. He was a professor, and he was bound and determined, Rockefeller, to spend whatever it costs to go change healthcare as we know it. And instead of looking at healthcare as the ability to help somebody heal from the inside out, or at least support and honor the body, they promulgated and did, and we'll walk through this, but they wanted to make sure that the world knew that the healthcare of the time was going to be what's called allopathic healthcare, allopathic medicine. And at that point, that's when the thing shifted. And when they published that report in 1910 called the Flexner Report, you can look this up, that's when all medical schools abandoned anything that was not the treatment of disease and symptoms with drugs, surgery, and radiation.
Now, wasn't there there's some back history to this, right? So you mentioned some names people might be slightly familiar with. You said Rockefeller. You said Flexner. Now, in this era, you guys have to remember, it's 1908, all right? We had just figured out how to like really start to leverage steel and oil, and there was this massive war, okay? So maybe you know this, maybe you don't. I did some digging. The reason the Flexner Report was even generated in the first place, and the reason Carnegie and Rockefeller even said, hey, let's do this, is because they had all this waste from oil and extractions and steel, and they said to themselves, what the heck are we going to do with our trash? And they figured out how to synthetically recreate penicillin, because penicillin had just been figured out. If you grow mold, you can extract the toxin, penicillin, and it kills bacteria. So my understanding, and maybe you can verify or deny this, is these two guys, Carnegie and Rockefeller, said, hey, there's an industry, if we can synthetically produce this stuff and use our extracts and come up with a synthetic penicillin, now it's not natural, and there became a problem. If it wasn't natural, how would you use it? And so Flexner came around to help them implement pharmaceutical synthetics. Is there truth to this? This is what I've heard.
100%. Yep, the petrochemicals used from the byproducts of everything they were creating, mostly steel, and then you've got, they get JP Morgan involved. You got Vanderbilt, like all these guys. They're the posse, right? They're the big four, and they've got the money. And this is where I think it's important for, even myself. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but if you're a person out there, a lay person out there, like how would this? You got to get it by like the researchers, like you got to get it by the doctors. What about the people that like know more than they know about biology? And this is where I think it's pretty safe to say here that if you got the money, you can buy anything.
And that's still true today. Would you agree? That's like, it's still true today. Still true today.
Exactly. And this is where they found out these petrochemicals. And I'm going to fast forward and we can backtrack here in a minute. But in 2013, they found out that these petrochemicals that you're speaking of were cancer causing. And then Rockefeller created the American Cancer Society so they could actually hide all of the documents that prove that. Guys, it goes so crazy that guys like Dr. Aaron and I look like we're conspiracy theorists. But it's like, if you just look at how this all came to be, right? And then so the reason why, like, I studied Abraham Flexner's life, because Abraham, he was kind of this meager type guy, and he got this power. So, Rockefeller found him, and he ended up getting this power, and he would go into every medical school, and they like rolled out the red carpet, because based on what he was going to report back to the top guys was going to determine whether that school was going to shut down or was going to get allowed to stay open. What I mean by stay open is they get funding. So then there were schools that fought it and said, you know what, this ain't right. Like we want health care. We don't want just sick care. We don't want just drugs. We can't abandon hundreds of years of proof and results. And those, like there was one outside of Chicago, and then what they did, and this is where it's important to know, they pulled all their resources together, and they would hire the media to point out that this school is not going by the standard, was going against the fray, and eventually that school would get shut down because nobody would go to it. So it just should probably irritate you a little bit, right? But here's why we bring it on. This is why this is important. Because even your doctors today, right? My brothers are medical doctors. They go to medical school. They're taught a curriculum that has been founded on that model. And that model, where Dr. Aaron and I come from, being chiropractors, we were, there was a lawsuit in 1987 that the AMA, American Medical Association, was proven guilty by the Supreme Court of trying to eradicate the profession, lying about it, calling it quackery, calling it pseudoscience. All of that stemmed from this 1908 and 1910 journey. And if you understand that, now you can start to say, is that why my doctor doesn't look, doesn't maybe frowns upon chiropractic or natural care. That's, like you said, Dr. Aaron, it's not alternative. When you look at it, we're not alternative. It's just been coined that by the powers that be and been bought.
And this is what I want to point out. I don't think a lot of people know the real history of medicine is not from medicinal practitioners. It was several businessmen who got together and said, hey, sickness is a product. Sickness is a sales. Sickness is something we can leverage. And if we own the market, sickness becomes the product and we are the answer. And here's the thing, and you probably know this. Until 1910, every medication available in the U.S. was naturally derived. People would use white willow bark for a headache, or they would use, camphor or chamomile or licorice or St. John's wort, or just natural. And then Flexner came around and said, no, listen, if your school teaches natural, we will not fund you. The Rockefeller Foundation will not fund you. And if you say synthetic is the way, we will give you, I believe, maybe it was like $100,000 per school. And you got to remember, it doesn't sound like a lot today, but like in 1908, $100,000 was probably like $1 million plus. Okay, so like money leveraged medicine. So now here we are 12 minutes into our 25-minute segment. So I want to talk about now, how did this one report create the entire shift in medicine? What happened to all the schools, and who were the big ones that survived? Like, who accepted Flexner's ideas? You're probably going to know them because we know their names today. Like, everyone knows these names of these schools. And how did that report make us get sicker, in your opinion?
Well, I want to flash forward to 1932. When, now you establish something called the American Medical Association, was established around that 1910, 1912 period, and then it was just funded and funded and funded. But think about this, that the number one lobby of Congress in 1932 was the American Medical Association. Surprise, surprise. But what's interesting is how much more they spent than anybody else. The second was, I believe, the American Dairy Association spent $50,000 in 1932 to lobby Congress. The American Medical Association spent $1 million, 50 times more than the second one. Now, why is this important? Because when you start to understand that the information that you've been given, even by the government or the powers that be, or media, you name it, it was all bought and paid. So when you trickle that down to then schools, what's a school's job? A school's job is a business too. They've got to get students and they've got to get money from these students. So you're only going to you're going to subscribe to who's paying you. And so all of this cyclical effect, and I think it goes back to Dr. Aaron, what you said is, it's a wake-up call to realize, like, you can't, there's no one even blame at this point, right? It's definitely not the doctors. It's not even the schools at this point. These are generations ago. But here we sit in this mess because we're solution-oriented. Where do we go from here? I know we're going to get there, but it's important to know that we got into this mess not based on what we've been talking about, not based on some sort of thought process that you dwindle down. This is the best approach. Now, I'm going to give it a little. Maybe you don't think I'm going to go here for a minute, but I'm going to give the benefit of a doubt to two reasons. There's a certain intentionality behind what they did, and this is why, in my opinion, why it actually worked, is because there was a skin of reality. Although it was filled with the body of lies, there's a skin of reality around it saying, hey, we want to standardize healthcare. We want to standardize medical care. Dr. Aaron, you and I talk about standardizing a product in healthcare, i.e. what comes out of your offices and other offices that will come from that. Is like, and there's importance to standardize it. So somebody can get in, when I go to a natural burger store here called Burger Up, it's a great burger restaurant. There's a few of them here around town in Nashville. I know what I get. There's a standard. So I can appreciate the mentality. The problem is they just standardize as allopathic care, and anybody outside of that was ostracized. The other thing too, what you point is, they wanted to, now it's patentable chemicals. That's all you can get. You can't patent vitamin D. You can't patent certain, like as pharmaceutical grade. So, or as a drug. So they wanted to again standardize the dosage, and it was kind of in this model. We're looking out for you. You see how this is a slippery slope?
Yeah, it sounds like it has. So it sounds like it has good intentions. Like, hey, we're here to help. We want people to be well, and we want it to be universal. So it's not when you're in Colorado, you're being treated different than in Texas, than in New York. So to create a standard is a good thing. The problem was they created a standard so hard that it was you must use synthetic, not naturally derived. Oh, and by the way, if you don't, it's not just like we'll treat you as competition. It's like we will actually take you out. Like they eradicated professions. For example, are magnetic healers around anymore today? No. Remember the whole snake oil movements of like, the 1930s, 1940s? Oh, you're just a snake oil salesman. All that stuff was designed to eradicate down, to try to effectively eliminate every major profession in healthcare. And the only ones that survived, if you will, was originally the osteopaths, a doctor of osteopathy, but then later on, and you may mention this, they actually bought into medicine. The chiropractic profession, in my opinion, is the only standard medical physicianry level of care that said, no, we refuse prescriptions, we refuse synthetics. We are going to anchor ourselves to say we will do it the original way, original healthcare. And even like you said, there was a war, a full-on onslaught, not physical war with guns and knives, but a legal war, like you mentioned. And today, there's really a split. It's you have the naturopaths, you have the doctors of chiropractic, and then everyone else has been absorbed into medicine. PT, acupuncture, DO, it's all AMA regulated.
Yeah, and it comes full circle, guys, because if you look at just the statistics today, this isn't made up, I'm not trying to be extreme, but 80% of medical doctors graduate without one, not even a half a credit of nutrition. So if you think, let's just, again, backtrack this and say, okay, how did we get there? How do we get to a society where we do, and here's the thing, well someone would say, medical doctors don't believe that what you put in your mouth actually will affect your body as it relates to food. And I'm like, hold on a second. But we believe that if you put a pill in your mouth, it will affect your body, and we want a desired effect on that. So biochemically, it's going to change. So where did it miss? Well, it is not the medical doctor's fault. If you like, this is why I like to take the high road. It's like above that. It's saying, then if you say your whole model is about treating symptoms and conditions with drug, surgery, and radiation, then there'd be no benefit to learn nutrition or actual health care. Like, what does it take for a body to be well? So this is what really kind of grinds our gears, because now we're put in the same category, or even worse, we're like, no, you guys are like sub-doctor. Like, you don't even, like, you're down with the, the used car salesman and the, attorneys, right? It's like, but let's just look at how we got in this mess. That's the problem. And who loses? People, right? The public, society, thinking that we've got some sort of scheme that was created through this deliberate scientific process that gave us the best approach to human healthcare. That's why we get fired up about this.
Yeah, and even more so because, like you said, who's the person paying the price? You are paying the price of a lie that has been going on for so long that it has become accepted truth. And in my opinion, that's the problem. When you read deep enough into this, it's like, how when you watch documentaries, Dr. Dan, you're like, wait a minute, what? They do it so well where they present, look, here's actually how it happened. Here's what's been going on. Look at the statistics. Can you imagine? There are documentaries about how healthcare is not health care, it's sickness care, and about how we don't actually save lives. We cause more death than the benefits we get. And the lie is that all the technology, all the pills, all the new procedures, all the new injections are for your good. But when you go back to the history, it was 4 businessmen sitting down together going, how do we make money off of sickness? And there's a famous quote, I don't know who said it, that said, a patient cured is a business loss in the medical model. Like, they do not want you to be well. They want you just managed enough that you won't die, but you will be reliant on their subscription-based model, right? You must fill this every 30 days. You must keep taking it. And over here, you, me, all of the non-AMA, the non-Flexner report people who went to schools that said, no, we go like this. No, God, no. You can heal yourself if you just figure out one simple concept. All disease is only one of two things. You have too much of what you don't need, too many chemical toxins, too much damage, and you don't have enough of what you do need. It's that simple, guys. You're missing nutrients or proteins or enzymes or cofactors. You're deficient, therefore, that's why you're sick. And that thought right there, even if Flexner was alive today, he would be cringing, going, no, we cannot teach them how to heal themselves. That will violate the model. We must give them synthetics. And if we find a natural, we'll make it alternative. And hey, we've got some time. I'm going to use an analogy. Maybe you know about this. How did they take a natural lizard venom from a lizard that lives in South America, and about 5 years ago, they said, well, this venom makes people lose weight and makes their sugars go down, but we can't take the venom. We must synthetically create it. And what did we cause? Now the newest issue. Do you know about this? Do you know what I'm talking about, Dr. Dan?
No.
The semaglutides, the Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaros. Guys, naturally, yes, there is a lizard. It's the glia lizard. It lives in South America. This lizard will bite a rat or a snake or whatever, and its venom induces a diabetic coma, causes paralysis, and they can eat their prey. A Canadian scientist said, you know what? If we can somehow extract a peptide from that. See, here's Flexner. If we can take something out of nature and make it by man synthetically, we'll use mRNA technology, we'll put the proteins together ourselves, we'll alter it so it's not as deadly, and then we'll let human beings inject it into their butts so that they can lose weight and lower their sugars. Do you see? It's the infection of Rockefeller and Flexner even still today.
Yep. Yeah, I might tell you this. I'm glad we went here for a second, because here's what we know. The brain is very good at finding solutions provided it knows the options. Provided it knows the options. And this is the thing, as a God-fearing Christian guy that I think about is I think, how did God design us? When you look and just study, God created us in his image, right? And so therefore we are above and have dominion over this world. So we have a unique approach, but when we allow evil, and it may sound a little bit extreme to you guys, like evil, it's a tough one. So you look at all the way fast forward, Ozempic, and you look at the problems with this stuff, and now we're saying, hey, you don't have the capacity to lose weight on your own. You don't have the option, so you're going to need this, and you're going to need this for the rest of your life. See, that's where Dr. Aaron and I, we step up and say, that's not right. That's not true. There's a better way. And by the way, here's what all came from. 100 and some years ago, a guy went in all these schools, and it was bought and paid, and it's still the same thing today, and we got to get out of this mess.
So we have, unfortunately, a commercial break, but I don't want you guys to panic. We still have 25 minutes of heat with Dr. Dan Sullivan, the Chiropractic Advocate, and myself, Dr. Ernst, host of the Ask Dr. Ernst Show. Hey, if you want information to dive deep into what we're talking about today, we're giving away 2 free ebooks. One, all the research. I think Dr. Dan truly is an advocate for showing you it's all out there, all the proof of everything we're talking about. And he has his top 10 lists of all the research. And I'm giving away an ebook on how to find in your zip code a holistic, natural, non-medical, non-Flexner brainwashed practitioner. And it's free. Just simply do this. Text your name, first and last, your email, and the word health to 704-906-2094. Again, the number 704-906-2094. Hey, when we come back, a shock. We're going to talk about the demonism of medicine, the demonic nature behind it, and how there is in your hometown a solution that you can use that's natural and supports everything your body needs. Hey, it's the Ask Dr. Ernst Show. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Purity Coffee is setting a new standard for healthy coffee. We lab test to be free of pesticides, mold, and mycotoxins, and we roast for high antioxidant and low acrylamide levels. When it comes to your coffee, purity matters. You will be able to taste and feel the difference. For first-time customers, we are offering 15% off new orders with the code YouTube. A lot of our customers say that purity makes them feel as good as it tastes.
How many calories are in our wines? Generally, calories in wine can vary, from around 95 to over 200, depending on the alcohol and sugar content of the wine. Now, unfortunately, since there are no nutritional labels required on wine bottles, it can actually be very hard to tell the true calorie content of your glass. Since our wines have less than 12.5% alcohol by volume, each glass of our pure natural wine has roughly 95 to 135 calories.
Hey, it's Dr. Ernst, host of the AskDrErnst Show, and I have a question for you. If you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, high blood sugars, and possibly even too much weight, did you know it could be an endocrine disruptor causing all of that? Bisphenol A, phthalates, PCBs, glyphosate, PFCs, all these chemicals can get stuck inside of our bodies, causing metabolic syndrome, which is everything we just described. So if you'd like to learn how to identify these and get rid of them, I'm offering you a free ebook and access to a masterclass I'm hosting this upcoming Saturday, August 10th at 10 a.m. During this masterclass, you'll learn exactly what you need to know to identify these endocrine disruptors and how to remove them from your body so that you can lower your blood pressure, lower your blood sugars, lower your triglycerides, and lose weight. To grab this free ebook and join us for the masterclass on Saturday, August 10th, simply text your name and your email to 704-906-2094. That's 704-906-2094.
Hey, this is Towns from Lenny Boy. We were founded in 2011. In 2012, we became the only certified organic kombucha that's made in the Southeast. And now in 2013, we're taking it up one more notch and making alcoholic kombucha. We are now an official North Carolina state licensed brewery. We're still going to have our traditional non-alcoholic kombuchas, our strawberry, ginger, Lost Rose, and kombucha beer. It's going to be the first in the Southeast, one of the only ones in the country. One of our first kombucha beers is a cantaloupe mint. It's going to come in at about 5.7% alcohol. Another flavor that we're coming out with is our Downright Root. It's a ginger and sweet potato kombucha beer and at 9% alcohol. We use North Carolina certified organic hops in all of our kombucha beer. It still has all the great B vitamins and probiotics in it. It just ranges from 1% alcohol all the way up to 11% ABV. Look for our non-alcoholic kombucha and our kombucha beer within North Carolina. Our tap room is going to be opening up here in the next couple weeks. Come try all of our new flavors and some of our great old flavors. Remember, always leave it better than you found it.
Welcome back. Happy Saturday. Thanks for tuning in to the Ask Dr. Ernst Show. My name is Dr. Ernst, and today we're having a lively conversation about the pivotal moment in American history. Technically, it's world history, and how this one crux, this one action shifted healthcare into the allopathic approach. We're going to talk more about that in just in case you're tuning in. And we're going to be discussing now in part 2, what is the real way of healthcare? What would be the way out of this mess we're in? And when I say mess, I mean, you look at heart disease, cancer, diabetes, weight, obesity, like everything is getting worse. And yet we have so many new doctors and new procedures and new drugs. I mean, my God, everything from monoclonal antibody injections to genetic therapies to even like, just the weird stuff. All the new things that medicine's coming out with saying, okay, we finally have found what we needed all along, and then we find out it doesn't work. And I have a special guest, Dr. Dan Sullivan, the Chiropractic Advocate, joining us today. Dr. Dan, thank you again for being here. And what I want to talk about now, if you would be okay with this, is what is the real issue with pharmaceutical approach to healthcare? And if you have some knowledge, how does it tie biblically into actually sorcery and witchcraft?
Yeah, unfortunately, not many people like to talk about that. But I think one of the things I would just propose to everybody out there, every listener, you say is, and many people can relate to this, when you ask the wrong questions, it doesn't matter how good you are with trying to find a solution, you're going to get to the wrong solution. So they once asked Henry Ford to say, hey, why didn't you listen to people? He said, if I would have asked people, they would have said I wanted faster horses. He asked a different question, and he ended up creating the automobile. And same thing with the invention of flight. You ask Elon Musk the type of questions we should be talking about that. What type of questions is he asking right now? And so here's where the rub is that when you're saying that the body is the sum of its parts and it's weak and defective and bound to break down, it's going to need something to help it. You don't start with the premise that two cells came together and created this living, loving, thinking piece of clay, as they like to call all these cells that are perfectly interwoven and intertwined with a breath of God's intelligence inside it, that every second you don't have to think about your heart beating or your lungs breathing or your cuts healing. You don't have to think about it. So we say that because us, quack, right? I'm saying that in quotes, right? If you see me, like us crazy ones believe and trust the fact. Like I've been in a lot of stages. I've talked to a lot of PhDs. I've been in a lot of research centers, and I will tell them, guys, listen, here's the difference between what we believe in natural healthcare and chiropractic. See, we don't believe that the body heals itself. We recognize the fact that the body heals itself. And so because of that, we start from a foundation that the best then approach, the best healthcare, the best doctor is to honor the greatest doctor. And the greatest doctor is on the inside. And so that's where we start with, unfortunately, this pharmakia, right? Is this, if you look at this witchcraft, sorcery, pharmakia, pharmaceutical, if you look, pharmakia is definitely from a place that we had never intended. And there's a lot of, Bible-believing Christians or faith-oriented humans that you just didn't know that just because there's a scripture on the wall of that hospital, that what's coming from that is a place that most people in there today didn't know where to get started either. So I know there's a lot there, Dr. Aaron.
And it comes from this idea of, again, what does a medication actually do? It forces the human body to act in a way that might be natural. So maybe we can upregulate an enzyme. Maybe we can enhance a pathway. But the brain is so uniquely wired that when it senses an upregulation of a pathway, there will always be an effect. Even the simplest medication you can think of, like, oh, well, it's available over the counter, like Benadryl. It's been around for forever. No, it hasn't. And it's completely safe. No, it's not. And it has a side effect I enjoy, which is sleepiness. So, I mean, think about the monotony and the insanity that some parents actually give their kids a drug because the side effect is sleep to knock their kids out. And when I say that a Benadryl is not safe, it's because it's synthetic. And you might say, but it's been around for forever and no one's died. Actually, they have. And be careful. So what we, Dr. Dan and I, are just simply trying to show you on this show is the history of medicine is business. It comes down to how much money can we make. And the problem, you mentioned lightly of this, is when medicine, cause a problem, they'll just create a foundation to try to then solve that problem and make more money off of it. Dr. Dan, I'm totally putting you on the spot. Do you know the number one most growing portion of a hospital? They always have cranes. They always have construction going because they're building 2 wings. Do you know which wings they are?
Man, my guess would be cancer.
Cancer's number 1, and maternity.
Well, hard.
Maternity. No. The maternity wards and the cancer wards are the fastest growing wards. I take care of a patient who is one of the senior designers of the hospital systems of the Carolinas. And we were having lunch one day and I was like, why is there always a crane at the hospitals? And he's like, dude, we never stop building. We never shut off construction. We're always building. And I'm like, well, what are you building? He goes, cancer wards and maternity. And I'm like, this was me, Dr. Dan, you'll get a kick out of this. I was like, so we bring them into the world and then we take them out in a hospital. Oh, this is what I mean, guys. It is money. It's money. It's money and money.
I got to say this, like, I've got a neighbor, and we go to church and they're awesome, great people, but she delivers babies, and long story short, my wife, has done some doula training. She's a Bradley birth instructor, has done a lot of, natural birth education. And my wife she's attended 3 births, this is before we had kids or kind of the young kids. And my wife has seen more births, 3 births, and she's seen more natural births than the hundreds that they don't even know. Everything's covered their tail. My point in saying that is when you start, or we're saying you start from a premise that the body is weak and defective, it's bound to break down, that then pregnancy is more treated like a disease than a natural process that God put here. And that's why you got maternity wards. And that doesn't surprise me now that you think about it. The cranes are always outside. They're always, and it just should so here's the other thing I want to say, that there was a study done in July 1st. It was published July 1st, 2009, so quite a long time ago, 15 years ago, believe it or not, and by a guy named Kilo and Larson. And they actually said exploring the harmful effects of medicine. That was 15 years ago. They showed that the benefits that the medical system provides does not outweigh the risk. And so essentially, yes, if all the medicine kind of went away, people would die, but actually people would be saved. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the benefit? So now here, Dr. Aaron, I want to just share this because I think you've maybe heard me talk about this before, but there was a guy, you guys know, Crick, Francis Crick, right, is DNA guy, one of the sharpest guys, right? So there's a guy named Rupert Sheldrake that I've studied, he's written a lot of books. He said in 1963, there's something called vitalism. And we're going to get to this, why chiropractic is so effective is because we start with the premise that the body is designed to heal itself, and function starts with the brain and the nervous system. It goes to the spine. The spine is directly and intimately connected to the health of the body through the brain and the nervous system. We could show that. I could prove that. We could talk about that. But here's what the point is. We start with the premise that the body doesn't need help. It needs interference. It needs no interference. So there's a foundation, a principle called vitalism. Vitalism basically says that the body is not made of the sum of its parts. It's all working and coordinating together, and there's a vital force. There's a vital, what we call in chiropractic, innate intelligence. And so, but on medicine side, it's more of a materialistic viewpoint, right? It's not vitalism, it's mechanism. It says the body is like a watch. If it goes apart, then we could just take out the part and put a different part in, or drug it, right? So listen to this and remember vitalism. In 1963, this is Rupert Sheldrake talking, I was studying biochemistry at Cambridge, and I was invited to a series of meetings with Francis Crick and Sidney Brenner. Crick had just cracked the genetic code. Both were ardent materialists. They explained there were 2 problems in biology that needed to go unsolved. They were going to go after, and here's what they said. They were going to try their best. Brenner was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2002 for his work on a nematode worm. Crick corrected the manuscript on his final paper the day before he died on the brain in 2004. At his funeral, his son, Michael, said that what made him tick was not the desire to be famous, wealthy, or popular, but to knock the final nail into the coffin of vitalism. These guys, Literally, you think this is full circle. These guys wanted to say, no, you guys that think that healthcare is more than just the body and there's intelligence and that you can do it naturally, you're crazy. We're going to prove you wrong. And it says this, he failed. So did Brenner. The problems of development and consciousness remain unsolved. There's dozens of genomes have been sequenced. Brain scans are ever more precise, but there's still no proof that life and health can be explained by physics and chemistry alone. So I think that transition into understanding that piece, there's more to the story than just your physical body. There's an intelligence that's at play. And like you said, Dr. Aaron, it's either too much or too little. We just got to find that out. And you can get healthy and avoid those cancer centers and avoid the heart disease centers and avoid what's going to pop up as all these weight loss centers. We're going to see it. You're going to watch it. And it's all going to be Ozempic. It's all going to be Wegovy. It's all going to be this semaglutide. And they're going to go off like crazy because of the gist of what we're talking about is it's business. And unfortunately, your health is at stake.
Let's go into the root of vitalism and the foundation of, in my opinion, the only surviving healthcare system, how chiropractic care today is inappropriately viewed. So see, people have been brainwashed into thinking chiropractic is some witchcraft, sorcery, hanging, crystals over you and cracking your spine and, popping joints to literally steal money from you and dupe you into a system when in fact, and I know you can speak to this, it is, in my opinion, what healthcare should have been from the beginning. Can you imagine a day if the Flexner report failed and the medical schools became distant and infrequent, and the chiropractic, naturopathic, vitalistic schools were mainstream? Forget Harvard and Stanford and Yale, who were all bought into Flexner, and think about Palmer and Logan and Parker. And see, people, you're probably like, who? And that's the problem. See, they were squashed so heavily and jailed and ostracized that we are today called the alternatives. But can you tie into the fact that no, vitalistic is the way and medicine should be the alternative?
Yeah, I think that what's important to know, again, it goes back to the foundation of this vitalistic, where you start from. Where do you start from? Where does your premise start from? And in chiropractic, again, we were taught from day one, the body is a self-healing, self-regulating, self-organizing, organism. And our job, right, and you and I align with our worldview. It's like 1 John 4:4, greater see this on the inside, that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And knowing that when you start from that premise, then yes, things can go wrong and you can get challenges and symptoms and conditions, but then we actually have to go back to the premise that if the body can heal itself, then the reason why it's must be, not because it's deficient in a medicine. If you had a fish tank and the fish got sick, the last thing you would think is, I'm going to throw more chemicals into the fish tank and assume they're going to get better. But yet, it's like it's taken such intentionality of a lie to promulgate in our society. It's like the best business model ever. I mean, when you think about it, Dr. Aaron, it is like if you're going to study a model that they did pull off, we sit here and we're so far removed that we think the model started on science. We think it started on reality and results. And so I can't remember exactly what your question is, but the point is we have to build from ground up that back to the premise. If you start from the premise that the body is strong and capable and willing, you will then do different things. And when it goes wrong, you don't look at how bad it is. You look at how great. Like I always walk into with a new patient. It's like, hey, I know you've got a thyroid problem, you've got headaches, and migraines, you've got sciatica, and you've got chronic pain, you can't sleep. But this is going to sound weird and almost hard to believe, but there's more that's going on that's perfect with your body right now than that's wrong. And what we're going to focus on is what's going on that's right, because when we know we can go focus on that and then figure out what's interfering with the function, and we address those problems that you're having, by like leaves in the fall, those will fall off. And you think that we're so convicted of this because we got such supernatural powers. It's not. We just studied the body. And here's the thing. Like my faith in how I live my life and raise my 3 daughters, and view my marriage and view my, my worldview grew so much when I started studying a cadaver. In chiropractic college, in my first year, I looked at these cadavers, and I remember studying the digestive tract. And you realize it's a semi-permeable membrane. That means that some stuff can get across, some stuff can't. But in order to get across, it's going to get to the bloodstream, and that's how you get nutrients to the cells. It kind of blew my mind, but then I'm like, okay, that's cool, it's awesome, that's amazing. And then I go back and you study, and you literally dissect it, and you see how thin the digestive lining is. And my head went to, if it's that intelligent and it has that capability and it's that thin, there's a crazy intelligence going on here. My objective as a doctor is going to be to remove interference and let that thing do what it's designed to do. And I think that, to me, Dr. Ernst, is where the magic lies. That's why you get the results you do with your clinic, and people come all over the world and will continue to do so, and rightfully so, because they're looking for a result that they deserve. And here you and I am like, man, we just wish more people knew this. It's not that we're so smart. It's that we just subscribe to a model that makes sense and that we believe was good, that, God inspired.
Let me do this to refine my question. You gave a brilliant answer, but let's refine. How would, let's pick a condition. High blood pressure. How would a person who's living mechanistically, medically, have to have a mindset shift to understand that medicine's approach, taking beta blockers and calcium channel blockers and just heart medications, should be the alternative? If that's the alternative, what is the answer for someone in that analogy? I have high blood pressure. I want to do it the natural way. How does chiropractic actually give them the answer when they're being told medicine is the answer? Is that a better question?
Yes, great question. And sorry for not fully understanding. But here's an example. And what one of the things I study now, as you know, more than anything else, is communication. Right? Jesus was able to turn skeptics into believers. One of the things he did is he told stories, parables. And so I want to create a short story. Is this: if you were getting your blood pressure checked, and somebody put you on a treadmill, and you're just walking at a pretty brisk pace on a treadmill, and somebody checked your blood pressure, and then at the end of it they said, oh, your blood pressure's up, we're going to get you on something to lower that. Like, that's not healthy because that blood pressure's up. If you're just a logical common sense to say, but hold on, like I was walking, like of course it would be up because it's pumping more blood because I need it, because oxygen is needed, because I'm breathing heavy and I'm doing a lot of work. But see, this is the model. If you don't start with like something's causing the high blood pressure, how about let's get you off of the treadmill and then let your body calm down and recover, and then let's take it. So what we're saying is there's a cause to the blood pressure. So a chiropractor would say, what is the cause? Are you walking on a treadmill? But here's what you don't understand, is that there's a stress environment, whether it be through what you're eating, the stress you have mentally and emotionally, or some sort of toxicity, or what most people don't know is a stress in your spine and nervous system, which has been proven, and I can show you all the data, I've studied this for a long time, how a misalignment in, say, the upper cervical spine, this top bone in the neck, has been proven. Research out of Chicago, Rush Hypertension Center showed that when you actually address this top bone, it reduced blood pressure by not one but 2 blood pressure medications given in combination. They had no symptoms of neck pain. So we say this because we're not crazy because we say the spine is directing, the function of your body or something like blood pressure. Why would we check your back or your neck? Because it's a correlation between the areas of the spinal cord and the areas of the brain that are pumping the blood or directing the pumping of the blood. And if that's off, there's no way I could give you the best medication, the best supplements, the best workout regimens in the world, and you're not going to be able to lower it the way you should. So it's taking it from that foundation. Something's causing it, and it may not be the upper cervical spine, right? It may be some sort of nutrient. There may be some sort of stress environment. We have to address the cause, and that's why we say DC is a doctor of chiropractic, but it's also known as a DC, a doctor of cause.
And that's why I say an MD is a manager of disease, because they just manage your symptoms. They're not removing anything. It's like you don't go to a medical doctor and say, I have high blood pressure, and he goes, we're going to give you this medication, take it for 4 weeks, and your blood pressure will be fixed for life. No, we have this medication. Yes, it might lower it, but if it does, you're on it for life, because I don't have enough time to investigate the cause. This is why, in my opinion, Our medical approach should be the alternative. It should be, in my opinion, if you have a health condition, and I'm talking even big ones that people would be like, no way, diabetes, MS, Parkinson's, cancer, high blood pressure, psoriasis, the big ones that people don't want to talk about. And you go to a chiropractor and you say, hey, I don't have pain, I have a problem. And a really good trained chiropractor will say, just like you said, Dr. Dan, look, I know you think it's a problem, but it's not. It's just your body's out of tune. It's lost its connection. If we were to tune it like you tune a guitar and get all 6 strings vibrating properly, you will be a symphony of music, of great sound, and of energy. And so chiropractors, by definition, first look to the spine. Hippocrates, my God, like supposedly the father of medicine said, look to the spine first for the cause of disease. So, Dr. Dan, we have 3 minutes. Give someone a take-home of how can they find out more about how truly chiropractic is the answer for their healthcare needs.
Well, here's the thing. I'm actually, the other thing, Dr. Aaron, is if you, I don't know how they're going to get it, but I'm going to also throw in a poster that I created. A digital poster actually shows all the pathways, and it just hit me of all the pathways. It's just the effects of a chiropractic adjustment. All the pathways, all the signs. So if you had an MD or you have PhD, or assuming you want to take it to somebody and say, here's why when I go to a chiropractor, my heart and my lungs, my breathing, my digestion, immunity, when people can't get pregnant, they get pregnant. Like, why would, when you push on a back, metaphorically, and you adjust the back, why do all those things happen? So I'm going to throw that in there for anybody that wants that and can get that. The other thing is, and I love this, Pete, because it's, you guys, I just want you to know the research is so crystal clear on this. And one of the research articles came from 2000, one of my favorites, Ogira study came out. It said they used a $3 million PET scan and they adjusted their neck. And what they showed as a result is that the brain lit up like a Christmas tree. That all the aspects of human health and performance that we've seen over the last 125 years in chiropractic, the reason why we've survived is because of all the things that we help with. But most people would think that there's no research or there's no science behind that. And that's a lie from the devil, because I can show you and break it down. So if you're suffering, if you're sick, if you tried a lot of stuff, I'm telling you right now, find yourself a corrective chiropractor. Somebody like Dr. Ernst, somebody that's out there that they have tests that can evaluate you. They create care plans to actually correct the problem, and that they can objectively show you so that they're not just guessing, and they have techniques to correct the problem. I know you have a guide there that's an amazing guide. But I could go on for days.
Well, here's how you get all this free stuff, okay? So Dr. Dan's going to give his research, so you guys can actually look it up. He's going to give you this digital poster, and it's an incredible poster that you can pull it up on your computer and zoom in and see all the pathways and exactly how it works. And I'm going to give away how to find in your zip code the doctors that are vitalistic, holistic, and will help you. How do you search Google? How do you make the phone call? How do you ask the right question? Because that's the hardest part. So you have to text your first name, last name, the word health to 704-906-2094. If you're watching on podcasts or live streams, Amazon Music, Spotify, Rumble, all of the places we're at, just click the link in the description, either below or above, and it'll give you everything for free. So again, the phone number, 704-906-2094. Dr. Dan, we've got about a minute, so is there anything you'd like to say just before we close the show?
I would just remind everybody that, I know there's a lot of confusion out there sometimes when it comes to healthcare often. I want to remind you that the greatest place you have is that doctor on the inside. And never take for granted that. And also find yourself a provider. Find a provider that subscribes to that philosophy, that your body has everything that it needs. We just got to find out where the interferences are and where the deficiency are. And when you do that, the sky's the limit. There's a DNA of hope. God put that healing inside you, and we just got to maximize it, because people are, unfortunately, we saw where they're at.
Yeah. Hey, do you have a website they can visit to learn more about you and the things you provide?
Yeah, they can go to therealdansullivan.com, or you can also go to chiropracticadvocate.com, or you can find me on Instagram as well.
There you go. Hey, thanks for tuning in today for the Ask Dr. Ernst Show. As always, our motto is you can heal yourself. If you become a doctor, and you learn and educate yourself on natural, holistic self-healing methods, the power is within. Let it be released and let it heal yourself. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next Saturday right here, News Talk 1110 WBT.